Welcome back to the deep dive. Usually when you want to learn about a topic, you go look for a book or a documentary or like a deeply researched long-form article. But today we are doing something entirely different. We are looking at the cultural footprint of a single everyday word, and we're doing it through a surprisingly modern lens.
We are indeed. We are pulling all of our insights today from a single Wikipedia disambiguation page.
And not just any page. We're looking at the foundational architecture for the word radio.
Right.
Looking at the metadata, this specific page was last edited on January 22, 2026, and it is actively available in 35 different languages.
Wow, 35.
Yeah, so whether you are reading in Aragonese or Ting Viet, people all over the planet are constantly trying to figure out which specific version of radio they are looking for.
Because there are just so many uses for it now.
Exactly. Our mission today is to trace how a very dry 19th century technological term evolved into this massive universal touchstone. We are going to explore cinema, early corporate monopolies, global geography, and modern interface design. And it is all hiding in plain sight on a page that was technically just designed to route web traffic.
You know, it's actually a brilliant way to examine history, because disambiguation pages, by their very nature, are entirely utilitarian.
Right, they're just tools.
Exactly. They're just digital traffic cops. You type in a word, you land in the wrong place, and the site essentially says, hey, did you mean one of these 30 other things? But by cataloging all those other things, they accidentally create these fascinating cultural time capsules. They reveal in highly concentrated form exactly how deeply a single concept has permeated human life.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the absolute baseline. Because before the word became a metaphor or brand, it was just physics.
Right, the literal science of it.
Exactly. The primary definition we are working from is that radio is a technology using radio waves for communication. It commonly refers to either the act of radio broadcasting or the physical receiver itself.
The hardware, basically.
Yeah, it's hardware. It's an invisible wave in the electromagnetic spectrum. But what stands out immediately in this cultural catalog is that it did not stay a neutral scientific term for very long.
Not at all. It was almost instantly co-opted and turned into an identity. If you look at the corporate history listed here, we aren't talking about small, niche tech startups adopting a clever moniker.
No, definitely not.
We are looking at the absolute titans of early media.
You mean companies like the Radio Corporation of America, RCA?
Yes.
And Radio Keith Orpheum, better known as RKO?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, these early corporations literally named themselves after the raw medium itself.
Right.
They didn't just utilize the technology to build their business. They claimed the word as their entire corporate identity. They cemented the term radio into the very foundation of modern media.
You know, I was actually thinking about the arrogance of that while looking through these notes.
Right, arrogance.
Yeah, I mean, it would be like a massive tech conglomerate today just naming itself the Internet Company. Not Google, not Meta, just the Internet.
That is an incredible level of foundational ownership.
Right. They looked at a raw scientific discovery and essentially said, yes, we'll be taking that as our brand name. Thank you.
It is incredibly audacious, and that corporate hubris actually worked. They took a physics term and turned it into an institution. And you can see the ripple effects of that institutional branding when you track how the word moves into visual storytelling. Because radio doesn't just remain a medium for broadcasting audio, it eventually becomes a cinematic subject all on its own.
Right. The transition into film is really fascinating. There is the 2003 American movie, simply titled Radio, starring Ed Harris and Cuba Gooding Jr.
Yes.
And in that film, Gooding Jr. plays a character whose actual nickname is James Radio Kennedy. So the word is literally personified.
Right, it becomes a person.
But what really caught my eye wasn't the American film, it was the global reach of the title.
The way the word completely transcends its Western origins is remarkable.
It is a totally borderless word. Just tracing the timeline here, you have that American film in 2003. Then in 2009, a Hindi language film is made in India. Its title, Radio.
Wow.
4 years later, in 2013, a completely different Indian film is released, this time in the Malayalam language. The title is still Radio.
And it keeps going.
Fast forward a full decade to 2023, and a Bangladeshi film is released. And again, the title is simply Radio.
Which is something we rarely see in global cinema.
Right, usually things get changed for different markets.
Exactly. Usually titles are localized, concepts are adapted to fit the cultural vernacular of the target audience.
Exactly. And for you listening, think about the philosophical weight of that for a second. We are talking about a word coined over a century ago to describe invisible electromagnetic waves, and it translates identically across American Hindi, Malayalam, and Bangladeshi cinema.
It's universally understood.
Right. The filmmakers didn't need to find a culturally specific translation for the concept. The word radio is so deeply embedded in the global human consciousness that it functions perfectly as a standalone artistic statement in entirely different languages across the planet.
It acts as a universal anchor, which actually makes perfect sense when we look at how the word has influenced the specific art form that relies on it the most.
Music.
Yes, music.
The catalog of albums and songs named after this technology is staggering. But what I found so compelling wasn't just the volume of music, but the wildly disparate artists who looked at their entire creative output and decided the only fitting title for their work was radio.
The chronological and stylistic spread is quite revealing.
It spans entirely different musical universes. You start in 1985 with LL Cool J right in the thick of the boombox era of hip-hop.
Classic.
Then we jump to 1993, and you have albums by Naked City and Michael Rother, both dropping albums called Radio in the exact same year. Then there is Chuck Brodsky's folk work in 1998. Fast forward to 2006, and the German vocal group Wise Guys releases their version.
Completely different genre.
Exactly. The very next year, in 2007, Kaimani Marley brings the concept into reggae. And then in 2015, the Steep Canyon Rangers use it for a bluegrass album.
What's fascinating here is how effortlessly the word crosses completely rigid genre boundaries. You have hip-hop, reggae, and bluegrass.
Yeah.
You have a German a cappella group sharing the same thematic obsession as an American folk singer. These are musicians catering to vastly different audiences, using entirely different instrumentation and operating in different cultural spaces, yet they are fundamentally unified by this one concept.
It feels that they're all paying homage to the altar of their industry.
They absolutely are. They are naming their art after the invisible infrastructure that makes their art viable.
Well, if the album titles are an homage, the sheer volume of individual songs dedicated to the topic is something else entirely. Here's where it gets really interesting, because looking at the timeline of tracks titled Radio, you are essentially looking at a history of modern pop culture.
It really reads like a who's who of musical evolution.
Let's group some of these together because the contrast is wild. Take the 1980s. In 1988, you have Eazy-E dropping a track called Radio on his seminal gangsta rap album, Easy Does It.
Okay.
That exact same year, country music star Vince Gill releases a song called The Radio. Two artists who could not be further apart musically or culturally, zeroing in on the same word at the exact same time.
And as the technology shifts in the 1990s, that diverse adoption only accelerates.
You look at the 90s and the diversity is just wild. You've got Shakin' Stevens putting one out in 1992. Then a Scottish alternative band like Teenage Fan Club drops a track in 93, and right on their heels, the punk band Rancid gets in on it in 1994 from their album Let's Go.
A great album.
Fast forward to the end of the decade in 1999. And you've got the Corrs bringing in that Irish pop rock flavor, sharing the exact same thematic space as Smash Mouth, who included a track on their massive Astro Lounge album.
It's a perfect snapshot of 90s musical fragmentation. You have alternative, rock, hardcore, punk, Irish pop, and whatever specific genre Smash Mouth occupies, all finding common ground in the radio.
And that momentum doesn't slow down in the 2000s, even when the way we listen to music completely changes.
Right.
Alkaline Trio releases their version in 2000 from Maybe You'll Catch Fire. That same year, the electronic group The Avalanches have a track called Radio On Since I Left You.
Two very different vibes.
Very different. Then the massive pop icons join the club. Robbie Williams in 2004 and Beyoncé in 2008.
That era is particularly interesting. Think about what was happening in the 2000s. People were migrating to MP3s, downloading music, carrying iPods.
Yeah, the physical radio was dying out.
Exactly. It was arguably losing its monopoly on our attention, yet artists were still romanticizing it.
I think that deep, almost nostalgic connection carries right through the modern era. You have Ed Sheeran's Radio from his number 5 collaborations project in 2011. Yellow Wolf releases a track on his appropriately named album Radioactive that same year.
Right.
Lana Del Rey puts one out on Born to Die in 2012. Matchbox 20 includes one on their 2012 album North. And then, just to ensure every genre is covered, heavy metal gets involved with Rammstein in 2019.
Which brings the timeline right up to our current decade.
Exactly. Henry releases a track from his album Journey in 2020. And looking even further, there's a 2025 release from the Frost Children featuring Kim Petras from their album Sister. We're talking about decades of music constantly reinventing the exact same word.
But amid all those massive chart toppers and global icons, what makes a disambiguation page so valuable is that it catches the weird anomalies, too.
Yes.
It captures the footnotes of music history that would otherwise be lost.
I was just looking at that. There is a song called Radio by Laura White, but it specifically notes that it's an outtake from her 2013 release, What My Mother Taught Me.
An outtake.
Yeah, the fact that an unreleased outtake holds a permanent place on this global reference page right alongside Beyoncé and LL Cool J is the ultimate democratic cataloging of information.
It levels the playing field completely. And then you have structural quirks from artists who just had to be different.
Oh, right.
The progressive rock band King Crimson couldn't just settle for one song. They opted for a two-part approach, releasing both Radio I and Radio 2 on their album THR-Ake.
Leave it to prog rock to require a sequel to a song about a broadcasting medium.
Naturally.
But all of these lists, the albums, the tracks, the outtakes, it really encourages us to step back and ask a thematic question. For you as the listener, think about why musicians write so many songs about this one specific piece of hardware. We don't see hundreds of hit songs titled television or internet or smartphone.
Because radio is the ultimate gatekeeper. For a musician, the radio isn't just a piece of electronics. It is the magic box that turns a local band into a global phenomenon. It is the amplifier of their dreams. Writing a song called Radio is highly meta. It is a way for an artist to directly address the vehicle of their own success, or, conversely, their profound frustration with the music industry. The word carries a deep emotional weight for musicians that a television set simply doesn't.
It is intensely personal for them.
Okay.
But as we move past the music elements, we see that the word has also found its way into some incredibly specific niche corners of the world. Moving into the print and geography sections, the word physically maps onto society.
The publication history alone is wondrously varied.
You have a publication literally just called Radio Magazine, which is an electronics technology magazine based in China.
Okay.
Then there is a separate publication simply titled Radio, which is a broadcasting trade magazine. And not to be left out, there's another publication called Radio in Belgium, which caters specifically to amateur radio enthusiasts.
Very niche.
And it's not just print journalism. The word appears on stage, too. Al Smith wrote a theatrical play titled Radio back in 2006.
We've seen how the concept dominates the sonic landscape of art, but what is arguably more profound is how it literally shaped the physical landscape. The geographical footprint of this invisible wave is permanently stamped on our maps.
I found this part fascinating. There are two very specific real-world locations highlighted here. First, there is Radioville, which is an unincorporated community located in the state of Indiana in the United States.
Okay.
And then thousands of miles away across the Atlantic, there is Radio Woe, which is a neighborhood in Warsaw, Poland.
Imagine the cultural impact required for a community to permanently name their physical geography after an electromagnetic wave.
Right. Imagine writing out your return address on an envelope and having to put down Radioville, Indiana. The technology literally rewrote the map. But maybe the most universal way the word radio has survived into the modern era isn't on a map in Indiana or in a song from the 90s, but right in front of us on our computer screens.
You are referring to the user interface, the ubiquitous radio button.
Yes. According to the definition here, a radio button is a graphical control element. It allows a user to choose only one option from a predefined set of mutually exclusive options. You see them on digital forms all the time, those little circles you click.
Right.
But the page also tells us exactly why it is called that. It is named after the physical preset button used to quickly tune in a radio station on an old mechanical car radio.
It is a remarkable piece of skeuomorphism.
Wait, skeuomorphism, for anyone who hasn't heard that term. That's when a digital object is designed to look or act like its real-world physical counterpart.
Exactly. Think about sitting in the passenger seat of a classic car. You reach over to the dashboard, you press the button for your favorite FM station, and there's that heavy mechanical clunk.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
As your button goes in, the button next to it physically pops out because the mechanical linkage only allows one frequency to be engaged at a time.
And the designers of early computer interfaces took that exact physical-mechanical limitation of an analog car part and programmed it into digital software.
Just say.
The digital world completely adopted the physical mechanics of the analog world and kept the name.
Which brings us to a really compelling synthesis of this entire cultural journey.
So what does this all mean? We started by looking at a Wikipedia disambiguation page, a simple utilitarian routing tool designed just to keep web traffic from getting confused.
Right.
But what it actually proves is how deeply and permanently the concept of radio is interwoven into the fabric of human life.
It is entirely inescapable.
It is a physical town in Indiana. It is a massive hit song for Beyoncé. It is an amateur hobbyist magazine in Belgium. And it is the little circular button you click on your computer screen when you were filling out a digital form.
Yeah.
It started as a 19th century scientific observation about invisible waves, and it became a foundational pillar of global culture.
This raises an important question, especially when we look at one final brilliant juxtaposition found right at the very bottom of the page.
What caught your eye down there?
In the See Also section nestled, right near the very end, there is a reference to a service called Rdio, spelled R-D-D-I-O.
I remember that.
Rdio was a modern music streaming service, and the source clearly defines it with one specific word, defunct.
It went under.
So think about the irony of that juxtaposition. On one hand, we have the radio button, a digital interface tool named after an old clunky physical dashboard dial. It has become absolutely immortal in the computing world.
We click them every day.
We click radio buttons every single day without thinking about it. On the other hand, we have Rdio, a purely digital, high-tech streaming service that literally stripped the vowels out of the word radio to sound sleek and futuristic.
And what happened to it?
It's defunct. It's a dead link in internet history.
That is an incredible observation.
It leaves you with a really provocative thought to mull over. Isn't it ironic how the digital age constantly borrows the language of the analog age, like radio buttons, to build the very tools like streaming services that eventually make the original analog technology obsolete? The digital world killed the radio star, but it couldn't survive without stealing its name. And even then, the analog ghosted this. The memory of pushing that physical mechanical button completely outlived the high-tech, futuristic streaming startup.
I hadn't thought of it that way. But you're absolutely right. The word outlasts the very technology that tries to replace it. The ghost in the machine is stronger than the machine itself. It really makes you look at that little round button on your screen completely differently.
Yeah.
Well, to everyone listening, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Next time you fall down a Wikipedia rabbit hole, don't skip the disambiguation pages. You never know what kind of cultural time capsule you might find hiding in the routing links. Keep questioning and, above all, stay curious.